Good morning, Ilaria Conti from the Florence School of Regulation, today in Brussels with the Director of DG Energy, Mr. Klaus-Dieter Borchardt. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
My pleasure.
Today we are going to discuss about a few issues after the Madrid Forum, which took place in October this year. The last Madrid Forum was a truly peculiar one. The discussion went beyond the usual regulatory issues on gas and focused on new elements, new perspectives for the energy sector. It was the Madrid Forum of power to gas, decarbonisation, sector coupling. How far do you think we are from the real achievement of a truly decarbonised European gas sector?
I can say that the decarbonization of our energy system is advancing well. I think quite recently we have made quite some progress. I refer here notably to the compromises that have been found under the Clean Energy Package for all Europeans. We have a new framework for energy efficiency, and as you know, we said for the decarbonization, energy efficiency first. We have a new framework for the renewable in electricity. We are about to finalize, actually tomorrow, we all hope, the market design for the electricity market, which will cater also for the integration of renewables. So this, if you like, will set the broader framework towards decarbonization. Here, of course, for the time horizon 2030, all these measures are developed for reaching the objectives 2030, minus 40% CO2 emissions, 32% share of renewables in the energy consumption, electricity consumption, and 32.5% improvement of energy efficiency. And then, of course, and you have seen that recently in the debate, the 2050 targets, 80 to 95% of decarbonization of our economy is back on the table. And in the discussion, you have seen that the Commission has published a communication where we develop a bit the instruments and tools that we see to be applied in order to get to that target. Just yesterday we had the rule book decided on the COP24, so that's the second and important part for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. This altogether also means that we will also go towards a 2050 target, and that means that we are leaving a bit the decarbonization of the energy system, and we have to take in also other sectors, which then leads to what we call the sector integration. So energy should help, decarbonized energy system should help industries, transport sector, building sector to decarbonize as well, and all together can then reach the 2050 targets.
Sure, and thank you very much for being this clear. It's a very clear path towards decarbonization in two steps, if we may say so. And what's the role of gas in all of this?
As you know, also the Commission does not believe that we can do the transition towards a decarbonized economy just relying on one single energy source. It will not be cost efficient. And technologically it will be impossible to do it just with renewable electricity, let's be precise here. So therefore we see a very important role also for gas, but as we have also said, it should be renewable and low carbon. That of course means biogas, biomethane, hydrogen, or decarbonized natural gas.
At the same Madrid Forum, the European Commission announced the launch of a number of studies, 7 if I'm right, and also some other initiatives involving the stakeholders. Could you briefly give us an update on all of these initiatives?
Yeah, with pleasure. But before I do that, because you have mentioned now the Madrid Forum, and I would also like, before I come to the studies, point out that at the Madrid Forum, I think we have changed last time a bit our working method, because this time, first we discussed, of course, the issue future role of gas, sector coupling, and in this context, for the first time, we made conclusions where we have allocated very precise tasks to organizations, participating organizations, and these organizations then should organize workshops and also link up with stakeholders in order to develop the issues that we have identified. And here you have issues like the potential of CCS and CCU. IOGP will do that. The gas quality issue, when you are blending natural gas with hydrogen, for instance. Here CEN will do the work. The gas storage aspects, also when it comes to renewable gases, hydrogen storage. Here it's GSE doing a part. We have also what I call the sector integration, the cross-sectoral flexibility markets. Here IFIEC will highlight how can we better link the energy system with the industrial policies. We will also tackle the fugitive methane emission as an issue. Here GIE and Marcogas will do. And the ENSOs, ENSO-E and ENSO-G, they will also develop an interlinked model, how they can bring together the infrastructure from the power grid and the gas grid together for the 10 years network development plan. And then we have identified but not yet allocated two issues, in my view, very important issues. The first is the guarantee of origin, and the second is to find uniform definitions on what do we mean by renewable gas, low carbon gas, yes, and these kind of things. Important. So I'm looking forward to the next forum in June, where we will then take in the results of these. And let me be also clear, yes, we have or are about to launch studies, but the discussions with all the stakeholders in the Madrid Forum are as important as the studies that we are conducting now. So what are those studies? The first study is on sector coupling. So sector coupling is how to bring together the gas sector and the electricity sector, mainly also on the infrastructure. And in this study, we want to assess and analyze the regulatory barriers and the gaps that are still existing to bring these two sectors closer to each other. And this study has been launched, and we are expecting the results in April 2019. The second study is what we call tailor-made regulation. Here, we want to develop indicators that can give an objective picture on the situation of the different markets in the member states or in a region, so that we can identify underperforming markets and then address these markets with targeted measures in order to bring them up to full speed. So this is, for me, a very interesting exercise that we will then work together with the member states and the regions. Third study is about liquidity of the gas market. This is not new. It is also coming out of the Quo Vadis study. Here we are looking into possible designs of release programs. But also, to be clear, this is not a measure that will be applied in all markets, but only those that are still foreclosed, where there is no competition for the moment. And gas release or capacity release programs are the best tool to help opening up the markets. So that's the third one. Another project that we have is on tariffs. I mean, then people are already very nervous. So to be clear also here, this is not an exercise where we want now to do the next step in harmonizing transmission tariffs, but we want to look into some elements, components that are used by the regulators when they are establishing the methodology. And here, first and foremost, the allowed revenues, because the allowed revenues have a direct impact on the tariffs, and therefore we think it is worthwhile to look into this component and to see whether we can do something. And another thing, I have mentioned it also, we are looking how to at least reduce the impact of the pancaking that is taking place when you have cross-border transmission flows. What do we else have? We have one study completed. That was the European transmission system in the light of the 2050 targets, which gives some interesting results when it comes to the future use of infrastructure. I have forgotten one important element also when we talk about infrastructure. We are also looking, CER is doing that also, into the depreciation of existing infrastructure, because it might be that we will not be capable to use all the infrastructure, because it's clear that gas and the gas grid will only be partly available in the new energy system, and nobody can exclude that some infrastructure pieces have to be closed.
Is it analyzed in the light of the termination of the existing long-term contracts, I suppose?
It is linked to that. And the other study that I have forgotten to mention, it's a bit apart, I would say, is about the regulatory framework for LNG terminals. Here we want to see or we know that we have a wide range of regulatory regimes for LNG terminals, and we want to have a look whether we need to do something. And the last one, because we have 6+1, I should also mention, is about the regulatory barriers to the entry into the wholesale market. And what I'm referring here to is we will look at the licensing and regulatory conditions to become a player in the wholesale market. And what we also observe here is that there are regimes in place, especially in the licensing. They are very burdensome and very costly. And I think there is also maybe room for improvements, and that's why we are looking into that as well. But now I think I have it all.
Yes, and you heard there's work for everybody.
Yes, please engage, and we need everybody.
A wide range of topics, and it's very good that it's sort of open call to everyone to contribute to these projects. And I'm not surprised that then the Madrid Forum doubled. For next year there will be two Madrid Fora. This is also something important to say. So I think we can go to my last question, which is still about the Madrid Forum. There was a definition I particularly liked, upgrading the European gas sector. So what does upgrading mean for you? And does it mean that we are done with the previous target, completing the European gas market?
So no, it's not, of course, not achieved. And even under the third energy package, there are still some things to do, especially in the implementation, because all the network codes in gas and electricity, they are still linked to the third energy package, and we are far from being in a situation that we can say that all these codes are already delivering the benefits that we are hoping that they are delivering. So, but what it means is that we take a new horizon, as I said, 2030, and for gas even beyond. And we are looking what is needed. And in electricity, I think with the clean energy package for all Europeans, we have done this part. And now, of course, everybody is asking, and if you believe in the future role of gas, what we do, what will be then done in the gas sector? And here, the gas sector is a bit different from the electricity sector, because we can say that the gas target model is working well. It has advanced the trade and the commercial flows between member states. But that does not mean that we should be complacent and just doing nothing. I think what we want to do, and that we mean by upgrading, we want to put forward, most probably in 2020, when the new commission, under the new commission and the new parliament, we want also, similar to what we did in the electricity, want to put forward our proposal how to make sure that the future role of gas in the decarbonization or in the transition of the energy system can really contribute, and how and where. So this is what we want to do, and we do that in a, let's say, I could see 3 chapters in this proposal. The first chapter will deal with all the issues that we have looked at in the electricity, and we will decide which ones need to be transposed in the gas proposal. So, of course, here you have all the institutional issues, and I will only mention one. We will create an EU DSO entity for electricity. But I can tell you that in my view, we should also have one for gas. We have adapted the rules of procedure within ACER. This should not only be the case in the electricity, it should of course also be applicable for gas. So these adaptations we have to make, and in substance we have a lot of improvements in consumer rights in the electricity, be it billing, be it switching, be it the possibility to sell flexibility on demand side. These kind of things, of course, we will also analyze and to see what should go into the gas proposal. So this is the first chapter. The second chapter is what we have just discussed under upgrading. So these are the 5 studies, on the basis of the 5 studies, where we will then look at the results and then to see what we would put into it. That's the 5 ones is the tailor-made regulation, so the indicators. It is the liquidity of the gas release programs. It is about the tariffs. Mm-hmm. It is about the regulatory barriers to the wholesale market, so licensing. Mm-hmm. And the 5th one, LNG. We will also deal with LNG. Thank you very much.
I just guessed.
Understood. So this is the second chapter, and the third chapter we could describe it as looking at what we can do to enhance the sector coupling. So bringing together the electricity sector and the gas sector. Here I think we will have the sector coupling study, which will show us the gaps, and then we fill the gaps, and the regulatory barriers that are currently existing in a number of member states, and that we will then address properly. For instance, one of the very important questions to be solved is how do we apply or adapt the unbundling principle, because as you know, when we are talking about power to gas, which is one of core instrument when it comes to sector coupling, who can be owner of the transformation plans from electricity to gas? Can it be a TSO? You know, for the moment there are only TSOs that are proposing concrete projects. But if you take the unbundling rules literally, you could argue that this is not compatible. And this is something that we should look into. We should have a discussion whether we think that TSOs or even DSOs should have access to this part of the energy system or not. So it's one of the crucial issues to be solved.
Of course. Okay, well, thank you very much. I think, again, lots of interesting points to be discussed, interesting insights. We will definitely keep following the work of the European Commission for this challenge in 2019. Thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you.